First of all, I think I need to say that this movie is bad. I think everyone knows that, but not because of Jake, which is the kid that plays Anakin. Um, Neither because of Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, I know it's a hot take, but yeah, I think I need to say that because every time I see someone complaining about the Phantom Menace, they go after the kid that played Anakin or Jar Jar. But for me, um, these two are really the smallest of the problems in this movie. Being the biggest one, the script of it. So I first watched this movie, I think when I was a kid, like 7 years old, something like that, and I didn't knew what Star Wars was. So I remember my mom, she was browsing the TV channels and she saw this movie um, in one of the channels. So thought she thought I would like it. So she called me, and I still remember what she told me, which was there is this movie of a kid with powers, and I think you're gonna like it. So she invited me to watch this. She also didn't knew what the franchise were. The franchise was what the franchise was. So she just saw the little kid running around and these people in funny costumes, and she thought I would like that. So she invited me to watch that, which I did, but I fell asleep like in the middle in the middle of the movie because it was boring as fuck, man. And I also didn't knew what the franchise was, but when we got um, to the politicians discussing the blockade at Naboo, I just turned off my brain and went to sleep. I remember waking up by the end of the movie when Anakin is inside the Trading Federation man ship and he blows them from inside out. So, like, I started watching the movie, and then when we get to Coruscant, I just shut off and woke up when the big fight was happening. So my first impressions of the movie was not really good, but I remember enjoying the last battle. And the next time I heard about this franchise again, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 years later, when I heard about a Clone Wars game. I believe it was the Clone Wars Adventures, the name of the game. So that was kind of the second time I heard about this franchise, and then I again a couple of years later I watched the whole series, but I don't really want to get into much depth in this video because I was planning to talk about the Phantom Menace, but this was the general background of how I learned about Star Wars and my my first impressions of this franchise. So going to the first time I watched the whole series, I think I need to mention that I enjoyed the Phantom Menace. So now is the second time I'm watching these movies. So I watched the first one when I was a kid, watched the prequels plus the originals when I was kind of a teenager, and rewatched everything now that I'm old and almost dying. But yeah, so this time that I rewatched it, I don't know, it's just like the movie is not bad, I would say that, but like as a standalone movie, it's kind of mid, like not good, not bad, um, but it gets a few more points um, when you know what Anakin will become. It's like the first time I watched it, I didn't knew uh, nothing about Star Wars. The second time I watched it, I think I already knew that Anakin would become Vader, so that was not a surprise for me. And now that I'm rewatching, I was thinking about that. Like, if you don't know about the whole plot, like the Vader plot of this franchise, the movie's kind of okay. There is some bad things, there is some good things, but not. It won't be on the favorite movies list of anyone. But you get some points when you already know uh, what Anakin will become. And I say that this movie is like a mid standalone because there is more stuff in the same category. There is a lot better. And let's say this movie is about a powerful kid that will save the world. That's the general theme of the movie. Like, there is Anakin, he is powerful, and he's gonna do something great. If you take movies or TV shows in that with that same theme, there is a lot of better stuff like Stranger Things is I believe must be the most famous, or like The Goonies if we go back in time a couple years, a couple being I believe it's 40 years ago. So there is The Goonies, there is a great one that I watch, Lost Boys. It's like the same general theme. It's like there is this group of kids that is going to do something great. So if you analyze as a standalone movie, there is a lot of stuff way better than the Phantom Menace. But if you know what way Anakin will become, he gets a few um, points. So going to the proper script of the movie, I think it starts great with the negotiations, like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon getting to the Trading Federation main ship, trying to negotiate. That's a really good opening for the movie. Like, there is these two guys that uh, we don't know about if you don't know the rest of the franchise plot. So there is these two mysterious characters that get into this ship and they are trying to negotiate in peace, but then the Federation tries to kill them with the droids. And the droids also, I think it's a good element for this scene because everyone likes cool robots with machine guns, and also the costumes are really great, especially the two main I'm gonna call heads, but I don't think that's the proper word. Like the two guys on top of the Trading Federation. Their costumes are really good. I don't know um, what's costume and what's CGI, because probably there is a couple of tweaks on top of the physical reveal costume, and I don't really know what's real and what's CGI. So that opening is really great, and then we get to Naboo, and we find the main villain of the movie, which is Jar Jar. That again, I don't think it's a big problem of the movie. And like I watched this a lot of years after it got released, so I I was like expecting nothing, because I also didn't knew the franchise. So I think maybe most of the hate this character gets it because of the people that already knew the franchise and was expecting something else. But this was my first contact with the franchise, so I don't know. Jar Jar is just not a big problem for me. And after we find it, we get to the underwater city, and again, I think it's another great point of this movie, because it establishes the uh, I forgot the word, but it establishes these two different races. They are the enemies of each other, like the I forgot the name of the race of Jar Jar, but like the race of Jar Jar and the race of Padme, like it makes a good job at it's establishing them as like enemies. So I really like that part. There is the bigger fish scene that I think no one likes that, and I'll include myself in it because it does not add much to the story. And after that, uh, the main heroes get to the queen, and they try to get to Coruscant, but they need to stop at Tatooine. That was a alright point. I don't know if there is much to talk about. Like the reason for them to stop at Tatooine is believable. Like the malfunction of the ship that made them need to land on Tatooine. I think they made a good job at telling us that. And when we get to Tatooine, we get to the biggest problem. Right, not the biggest, because like the biggest is the script that does not help too much, but like the second biggest problem of this franchise, which is the alien languages. On Star Wars, I don't think they created a alien language for the movie. Like on Star Trek, we had the Klingon language, which is a proper language with um, rules to it. Like the same happens with Lord of the Rings. There is a set of rules for the Elvish language, and I don't think they made that for Star Wars. Um, so it ended it ends up like it's just gibberish, like it's just people talking nonsense and pretending that it is a real language, and that is something that bothers me a lot. And then the whole franchise, this happens. And in this first movie, this happens a lot. Like there is that blue alien that owns Anakin, and also when we get to the pod racer, that happens a lot in in that moment too. And it's just something that um, I'm not really a big fan of, because it does not feel natural. So they just could be speaking English and, or I don't know, another language. Like they could pick an existing language and just put it in the movie like the uh, to be like the alien language. And I think that would work better than if the aliens were talking nonsense. Um, in Tatooine, there is I don't think much happens, so um, that part of the movie, it's something that makes me bored. Like if this part on Tatooine was smaller, like in length, I think I would have enjoyed this movie a lot more. But since the moment they arrive at that planet, nothing much happens. So they could have made it um, shorter. So we have the pod racer that also does not add much. Um, that part of the movie, it's like 10 minutes. I don't know why, but I had a memory of it being um, of that part being bigger. But when I rewatched it, I actually paid attention to the timestamps, and it turns out the pod racing is just 10 minutes long, which was a kind of a surprise for me, because I remembered that being way bigger. Um, so Anakin gets freed. We get to Coruscant to try to get backups to help Naboo. And then we get back to Naboo. There is the big fight. Qui-Gon dies. Jar Jar becomes a hero. um, and also there is nothing much to talk about this part. Like Darth Maul design I think is really good. Um, for me, it passes the idea of being an alien figure and not just a guy with face paint. And the fight is also really good. Great. There is a great choreography, and I like the way they showed um, Obi-Wan's impatience in that fight. Like there is the scene that everyone gets separated with that laser wall, and in that moment we can see like Darth Maul and Obi-Wan kind of being impatient, just wanted to resume the fight while Qui-Gon takes the time to meditate. Um, So that's an interesting part of the movie. And then the lasers turn off. Qui-Gon manages to get to Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan gets behind, and the lasers turns on again. And again, that same they show that same impatience of Obi-Wan because his masters die on that moment, and he just wants to rush towards Darth Maul to revenge his master. And I think uh, they did a good job at showing us those emotions. And then Maul is not killed, as we discover later. He's just split into two. And it's kind of the same that happened with Boba Fett. Like, this character just appears in a single movie, people like it, and they managed to just expand his lore. So that is the ending. Like, they defeat the droid arms. There is the big ceremony where they give the medals for the warriors. There is that scene, the guy lifts up that blue weird ball, and the credits roll. So I won't say it's the worst thing the worst movie I ever saw. It definitely has a lot of problems. The biggest ones, as I said, being that part in Tatooine, because it's too long, and they could have summarized that a lot better. But I think taking that out, it's a okay movie. Like, as I said, if you watch it as a standalone, it's okay, but it gets a few more points by it gets a few more points by knowing what Anakin will become. So yeah, I don't think the main problems are Jake, the actor that plays Anakin, neither Jar Jar Binks. They're just okay characters, and I think most of the hate they got was because of old school fans that were expecting something else from the movie, but got surprised with them. So yeah.